New rules in Ontario allow home sellers to share offers they receive with other bidders on their home in what is called open bidding. It also includes sharing information on the condition of the home, any deposit, or the closing date. For what effect this rule change could have, we're joined by Daniel Steinfeld. He's the co-founder of On The Block Realty. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Can you tell us, first of all, just about the options that you already offer sellers? Because you do some auction work as well as some form of open bidding, too.
Yeah, so starting back in 2017, we've been advocating for transparency in the real estate market for quite some time. And we were able to introduce an open auction platform back then and have been running them as an option to sellers for the last 6 or 7 years. And we're excited to see that the wheels are starting to turn on making this an option to sellers with the new regulations as well.
Yeah, so what sort of transparency were you advocating for? What did you see as, getting in the way of things when it comes to the process in the province?
Well, it was and still is a bit of an issue with a lot of buyers out there with the blind bidding approach that people might be familiar with, where the rules had dictated that buyers were not allowed to see the substance of competing offers, meaning when they were making an offer on a home, they wouldn't have any idea what they were up against, which made it very difficult for them to determine what they should make as an offer on a home. And so for us, we didn't think that there was an absolute answer, thinking that everybody should be able to see, but the fact that the rules didn't allow that at all, we felt was a bit of I guess, a shortcoming of the industry, and we did what we could to start to get ahead of that with our platform.
Yeah, so how were you able to work around it then? If it wasn't allowed, how were you able to offer the auction as an option?
Well, alongside our brokerage, we also have an auction company. And so initially we built a whole separate company. We had a separate auctioneer and effectively ran the auctions as a third-party service to the real estate process. This was something that worked well. We made sure it was vetted and green lighted by the industry and the regulations that were out there. And also we made sure that everybody who was participating was consenting and understood the fact that the substance of competing offers would in fact be transparent. So nothing was ever a surprise to people participating on either side of the process.
Who's interested in that sort of a model in your experience over these past few years, Daniel?
It's been really interesting. We thought initially that this would be the sort of thing that would be of interest to younger folks only. It was a tech-based platform, and we didn't really see this having a complete cross-board appeal. But the fact of the matter was people were very frustrated with the blind bidding approach. And the more of these auctions we did, the more we saw people flocking to it and actually seeking them out as an alternative to blind bidding because they were so frustrated with the process that had been shutting them out of the traditional real estate offer process. So it's been really interesting. Over the course of time, we've seen it develop and we've tweaked it here and there to make sure that it speaks to what consumers are looking for. But for us, again, it's just a choice. It really only makes up about 5 to 10% of the real estate transactions that we put out there. So we just want to be really clear that it's a choice that's available to people, not the answer.
It is interesting that the choice is in the hands of the seller, which, I mean, they're the one doing, deciding whether they want to sell their house or not, but they might not be the one that is, really wanting the transparency in the situation. It's more likely on the buyer's side. I just wish I knew what that other person was offering. So does it help the frustrations that some people might have with the way the industry is set up? Or, is this, a first step that more needs to be done potentially here?
I think this particular regulation is a first step. It's not quite there in that right now, to your point, the option to make things transparent are completely in the hands of the seller and at any time in the process. So a process that could begin blind, the switch could be flipped at any point during the sales process to open things up. And that's something that buyers need to be aware of with these new regulations. That does differ from the platform we've got out there where from the get-go, it is a transparent process or not. It's not something where the dials can be switched here and there. And also, everything in an auction is consistent in terms of the terms, and the only real variable is the price. So the price itself is what becomes transparent. Whereas with the new regulations, a seller could choose, for example, to just disclose the closing date of all the offers, but not the price, or vice versa. And so there's a lot more power in the hands of the sellers under these new regulations. We did find when we introduced auctions that buyers really like the idea of knowing that they're going into a situation, to your point, where they're able to see things. But sellers quickly learned that by retaining more buyers in the process who otherwise would be frustrated and maybe not even participate, this actually, in a lot of cases, delivered the seller a higher sale price for their home.
Well, yeah, so that does sort of raise some question marks for me because, if you think about the possibility that, let's say the seller says, okay, here's what the closing date is going to be, and here's, I don't know, what other terms possibly you could give, then everyone might feel pressured to line up with those terms, and then the price is also, even if they don't show the price part, that side could benefit too. I don't know. It still feels like a situation that has a lot of pressure on the people participating in it.
It definitely, I think this is a first step, to your point. This is not the answer yet, I don't think. I believe that it's been kept deliberately vague, for lack of a better word, at this point. And I think the regulation is going to see some adjustment over time as we see the uptake on it. I don't really foresee a lot of sellers jumping headfirst into this new regulation as an option without really understanding the pros and cons of what it provides to them. Because right now it's really just saying, show people what you want when you want. And that really doesn't provide the same transparency to the buyers that I would say the buyers are looking for.